Gonna go from the start. There we go. Signature assignment PHED 614 by Stephen Cara. Next page is loading. There we go. My summer adventure. My adventure was comprised of 2 weeks of facilitating and trainings with High Five in Brattleboro, Vermont. I'm excited to have images from those adventures to share throughout the slides. Apparently, it takes a few seconds to load the next slide. Hopefully that gets a little bit better. Come on, slide. There we go. My 3 assumptions. My beliefs going into basic training level 1 and basic training level 2. Assumption 1, this experience will be fun and engaging. Assumption 2, these trainings will be challenging and new. And assumption 3, these facilitations will be meaningful and informational. In this presentation, I'll be reflecting on these assumptions and viewing them through the different lenses seen in our adventure theory chapters 2 through 9. This includes optimal arousal, adventure paradigm, attribution theory, self-efficacy theory, and goal expectancy theory, leadership types, cult theory, and situational leadership, and the dual process model and decision-making traps. Assumption 1, fun and engaging. For my first moment stepping out of my car and into the parking lot, I felt great. I made 2 new friends before even walking in the door and had a sense that this was a fun group. Our first task sitting together was playing What It's Not, a card game where you simply guess what the card isn't out of a 52 regular deck of card. This was a silly game, and I was already in my optimal arousal phase of the inverted U curve, having fun from the first second. Assumption 1 continued. We proceeded to play games such as Cannonball, a clap and catch game, and other group puzzle solving tasks. One task involved tapping a group of numbers in order from 1 to 30. The numbers were about 10 feet from the starting line, and the numbers were held in a circle, which only one person could be in at a time without getting a 1-second penalty. This task was still highly fun and engaging for me and the whole group. We even set a course record. The group was operating in optimal arousal and seemed to be in flow state. There were so many moving people for this task. 4 factors: skill level, task familiarity, personality, and task complexity. Our group seemed to have really good factors in each one of these. So for skill level, we started low and increased each round for that tapping game on the numbers. For task familiarity, it grew with each repetition that we did. Personality. Our group dynamic and individual personalities thrived on the challenge. When given a chance to stop trying with an already amazing time, we decided to keep going just for the fun of it. At some point, our facilitator, Cam, asked us, do you think it's even going to get better? And what happens if it doesn't? Are you sure you want to keep going? And we just said, yeah, we think we've got it. Task complexity. This was a simple task which allowed for us to have fun pushing ourselves without the fear of failure. Adventure paradigm and assumptions. Challenging and new. 5 conditions: exploration and experimentation, adventure, peak adventure, misadventure, devastation, and disaster. And we could see me and Hawk right there in basics training level 1. Exploration and experimentation. I find myself constantly doing things that were challenging and new. In Adventure Basics 1, the challenging and new felt more comfortable, but in Basics Training 2, the challenging and new felt out of my depth. During the whale watch activity, our group found ourselves trying something new that was great and a fun challenge. We had to find our balance on a giant seesaw by working collectively as a group. This did not come right away, but we got there with teamwork and practice. Adventure. I believe that our group was an adventure when we tried the leap of faith. On this 40-foot telephone pole in the woods, certain members of the group climbed and jumped off the top onto a trapeze. I would say that this was close to peak adventure, but the group had widely differing experiences. Some made it to the top, and others were just nervous and quiet. This beast of a challenge looked like it had some big risks to it, and participants were looking around as if saying, are we ready for this? At first, there was this looming silence as people were waiting for maybe misadventure or disaster. But after the first person went, it brought the group's energy to a new positive place. Peak adventure. We definitely hit this part when trying the holy cow swing. A tree line, gigantic swing where a participant flew through the woods after being hoisted up by the entirety of the group. This was on the final day and the ultimate culmination of fun, joy, and participating. This had a lot of risk to it, but with the proper training and with our group's grown competence over the week, it just felt right, and we were simply ready for it. Misadventure. There were some small moments of misadventure. On the flying squirrel, I ran so fast and swung back so hard that I got a nice rope burn from the hoisting rope down the back of my leg. It felt like the back of my legs were on fire, but I downplayed it as I knew that there were people who were nervous that were going to go after me, and I didn't want to impact them in a negative way. I believe that this could have been avoided if the timing of the pull was a little bit different on the rope. Overall, I was okay and it didn't slow me down. I still had the experience framed from my assumption that this is going to be challenging and this is new. Some mistakes could happen, but it will still be fun. If I didn't have that assumption, challenges. Disaster and devastation. Fortunately, this never occurred. We always had the supervision of Cam or Phil to ensure that the carabiner was double checked or that a step wasn't missed while trying all of these new knots. There was only one activity during the 2 weeks that I opted out of because I felt that the possibility of devastation and disaster was too great and that my competence was simply not matching the risk well enough. A high gear retrieval with self belay was that challenge, and while I watched my friend Dale perform it, I was happy not to be doing it myself. Attribution theory, locus of control, internal versus external, stability, fixed or over time, controllability, effects being controlled or uncontrolled. Locus. During basics training level 1, I found myself showing a much higher internal locus of control. My self-talk was more positive and I believed, I have learned new things before and I can keep up with this work throughout the week. During basics training level 2, I shifted to more of an external locus where I believe that these tasks are meant for someone else, but not for me. What am I even doing here? I have never even facilitated the simplest, lowest ropes course, and now I'm doing this? An interesting moment occurred with fundamental attribution error during the first time on the leap of faith. Dale went up first, and he has to run his own high ropes course later this year. He got to the top after a long time waiting. He went for it. I made it. I saw that he went for it, and this inspired me to go too. Other people in the group were also encouraging me, saying things like, "You're meant to do this. You've got this, buddy. We know Steve can climb anything." After I completed the jump, I felt that I got lucky with how the top staple led perfectly to my next step on the top, and I had it easier than maybe other people did. I felt like Dale just had it in him and that he wasn't that scared. I found out later that he was terrified, but as the unanimous cool dad and coach of the group, he felt like he wanted to do it for us, not necessarily for himself. He said that that gave him the power and the strength to do it. During the hardest and scariest task, it seemed that I was attributing more to the external factors, whereas during things I was more comfortable with, I could internalize it more. Self-efficacy theory. This ties well with my second assumption of these experiences being challenging and new. It applied especially well to the aforementioned leap of faith. During every single activity from Basics 1, I immediately knew I was going to do them, except for the leap of faith. I did it before on a much smaller pole at Springfield College and missed. I remember having the trapeze touch my fingers and not being able to hold on. Additionally, no one initially seemed to want to do this at high five. When I was offered when it was offered, everyone looked around for someone else to volunteer to be first, or looked away while putting their hands in their pockets. The four sources of self belief: performing accomplishments, social modeling, receiving encouragement, and managing negative emotions. Why I jumped on the leap of faith: mastery experiences. Performing accomplishments were important to get me into the leap of faith. Then I would not have done it. Cam, as the facilitator, placed this well, and we had just enough experience in climbs that when Dale went for it to step in, he said, "Yeah, I've got this." Social modeling. I noticed how many people, including me, didn't want to go first. However, once one of us stepped up, then I went too. The first person froze up there for what felt like a while, but I knew I didn't want to freeze. I worried that if I stopped, then I just wouldn't start up again. I powered up and down pretty darn quickly. Even though no one really wanted to go first or second, a lot more of the group was willing to go third. I could see how each performance settled the group down and made them feel as if this was all right and everything was going to be okay. I connected to what the facilitator said. You want someone who is going to crush it, to go first, and to go last. It seems to help start things off and to end them well on a positive note. Social persuasion. I believe that this can be used for good or for bad purposes. Fortunately, the group had a lot of trust built in from the first day. The amount of positivity was incredible, but it was also thoughtfully placed. The group wasn't pushing or encouraging everyone to go for it on the leap of faith. We had a feel for each other and needed some encouragement, but some people we just knew wouldn't want to go for it. I know that encouraging that person who didn't want to go for it would have had a negative effect and broken some trust if we tried to push them into something that they clearly weren't ready for and didn't feel comfortable with. Psychological and emotional states, managing negative emotions. Overall, I had positive emotions. However, around the leap of faith, I remembered failing in the past. The way that I managed that emotion this time was by trying to stay present and on task. I kept telling myself, just keep climbing, don't stop. And when it came time to jump, I replayed the saying over and over from the facilitator: look at where you want to jump. Great picture of Josh being in Zen mode. He gave us a lot of comfort and calmness. Leadership. The four quadrants, and then we have the abdocratic, autocratic, and democratic portions as well. Leadership quadrant and assumptions, meaningful and informative. Leadership quadrant activity was my favorite portion of this class. I enjoyed seeing where I fell in the quadrant, and it was informative to have my mentors share with me about what they saw my strengths and my needs for improvement to be. I seem to be situationally in all portions of the leadership quadrant. I place myself predominantly in the relationship master and spontaneous motivator portions. My mentors placed me in the analyst and relationship master portions. With High Five specifically, we had such a truly amazing group with various styles of leadership. Our team came up with house rules where we all agreed on our purpose and what we wanted to bring to the team. This group was incredibly close. I know that in this part, we achieved so much. I was able to see why we had such a wonderful balance of leadership styles. I know that this contributed to our success. Hawk was our analyst, and he knew the most about knot tying. Alicia was the relationship master and had a strong individual connection with everybody in the group. Lars was our driver and made things happen. I was a spontaneous motivator and believed in things so strongly they felt closer and more achievable for myself and the group. People from this group said the activity was life-changing. It felt more like NSO or pre-camp to me from my days at Springfield College, rather than simply a week at a ropes course. My assumption was that this was going to be meaningful, but I was overwhelmed with just how much it truly was. The power of leadership was strong in our group, and I could see each of our skills more clearly through this class now in the lens of adventure theory. I know this will help me zone in on leaders in my classroom in the future and foster their strengths well. In the future, this can also help me better balance and understand leadership styles within group dynamics and the context of an activity. Cult and situational leadership. Cult involves the spectrum and balance of task oriented and relational oriented leadership styles. I have traditionally fallen on the relational side more often than not. I also remember mentors, teachers, and professors who have seemed to be more on one side than the other. I remember Coach Sully seemingly to be more relationship oriented, and I felt a strong connection to his work and his class. I always told myself his sports psych class is my absolute favorite. I also learned a tremendous amount from Dr. McDermott's family and group dynamics class. Even though I didn't feel a strong connection at first, I grew to appreciate that this class and her work. It felt more task oriented than I had preferred, but it brought about something good in me. It pushed me to a new level. Since the start of this class, and with hindsight, I've grown into understanding that while I am initially more comfortable with one style, both have incredible value, and the ability to choose the right one at the right time is where participants have the best chance to benefit. Task oriented. Our facilitator, Cam, did an incredible job and is the type of leader I aspire to be, similarly to Coach Sully and Dr. McDermott. Cam was more task oriented when teaching belaying skills and knot tying than with group activities. For knot tying, he was plain and simple, with information taking the forefront. He was no nonsense at these times and stressed that these knots are what hold you up in the air when you are 40 feet off the ground. These tasks were quick and were meant to be automatic with time. The goal was to be able to effortlessly repeat the knot tying as if we were a machine. Highlighting situational leadership. Cam had incredible situational leadership with how he looked at our able and unable abilities, as well as our willing and unwilling motivation, and continued to match us well to each of the following activities. His ability to find challenges that increasingly met our willingness and ability each step of the way made us feel safe and successful. This crosses over with his ability to switch leadership styles from task to relational oriented quite well, highlighting the dual process model. Cam's ability to switch styles of sharing information ties into this model. With the knot tying, he was fast and intuitive, while with complex group games, he was slow and more deliberate. In the future, I plan on putting my own Cam cap on and change my style to best meet the uniqueness of the group in the given situation of the moment. This is a lot of growth from where I have been, where I get comfortable in the past in my specific preferred style and instead highlight the people who adapt well to my style rather than meeting where the group needs the most help and adjusting my style to meet them. Relationally oriented. We also completed another meaningful activity as my assumptions continued to come into fruition involving a word jumble and our personal stories. We would pick up two words from a pile and make our connections and personal stories with both. Here, Cam's style shifted completely. He focused more on listening than talking and opened conversations up to the group. When this activity was completed, we had a closer connection with each other and to him. It was not straightforward and took more time and navigation. Situational leadership, autocratic. It feels as if my style in elementary school has been mostly autocratic. This has been effective in getting everyone moving together as a large group, especially with little ones who can be easily distracted and who have a short and while I have a short duration of time with them.